There are people who believe control is about dominance, about raising your voice, about forcing the world to bend. They're wrong. Real control is quieter than that. It's learned slowly, through observation, through correction, through understanding exactly how much pressure a person can withstand before they fold. It doesn't need threats. It doesn't need violence. It needs patience. I learned that from my mother. She never shouted. She never begged. She simply decided who mattered, and then behaved as if that decision were a law of nature. The rest of us adjusted or disappeared. For years, I thought surviving her meant escaping her. I thought distance was enough. I thought success would free me. What I didn't understand was this. You don't leave control behind by walking away from it. You carry it forward by mastering it. This is not a story about justice. It's not a story about healing. And it's certainly not a story about forgiveness. This is a story about inheritance, about what gets passed down when love is conditional and power is precise, about the moment when clarity replaces hope, and hope, once gone, never asks to return. People will tell you this story has a villain. They'll point to the woman who crossed the line first. But lines are only visible once you learn how to draw them. And once you do, the question is no longer who started it. The question is what remains after control has done its work. My name is Elena Reyes, and this is my story about my life, my neglect, my imperfections, my strengths, and my awakening. I am a systems engineer and founder of an AI infrastructure company called Spark Signal. At 2:14 in the morning, I received a text from my mother, announcing itself like an emergency. I was half asleep, scrolling without seeing anything, the city murmuring outside my window like it always did, alive, indifferent. When my phone vibrated, I almost ignored it. One message, no greeting. You were a mistake I regret every day. Stop attaching yourself to what I built. I stared at the words longer than I should have. I waited for pain. It didn't come. What replaced it was something colder, something steadier, a tightening, not in my chest, but in my thinking. Focus. Until that moment, some part of me still believed my mother might one day see me. That time, consistency, or distance might soften her. That love, however malformed, might eventually surface. That message didn't hurt me. It clarified me. And clarity, I would later learn, is not the same thing as healing. 3 hours earlier, my mother had summoned my sister, Marisa, and me to dinner. My mother was a polished, domineering matriarch, obsessed with control, status, and legacy. Her name was Patricia, and she viewed motherhood as a transaction and affection as leverage. She rewrites history to center herself, sees her children as extensions of her image, and believes any sacrifice entitles her to ownership. Her greatest flaw is arrogance. She assumes emotional dominance will always protect her from consequences. My sister, Marisa, is younger than me and raised as the chosen one. She is intelligent, intuitive, and capable, but was molded to mirror her mother's expectations. The restaurant, Riva Aurelia, was one of her favorites. Everything about it was designed to impress without comforting. Chairs that looked elegant but discouraged relaxation. Plates arranged to be admired, not eaten on. She was already seated when we arrived. Pearls. Perfect posture. Controlled expression. Marisa sat beside her, looking exactly the way our mother preferred, polished, agreeable, contained. I took the remaining chair. My mother didn't waste time. "I've finalized my estate plan," she said, slicing into her fish. "All holdings will pass to Marisa." The statement landed with surgical precision. Marisa startled. "Mom, what about Elena?" My mother didn't look at me. "Elena made her choices," she said calmly. "She prefers chaos over legacy." Chaos. That was her word for Spark Signal, the AI infrastructure company I had built from nothing. A platform that helped cities predict power failures, manage traffic congestion, and reroute emergency services before disasters escalated. It was functional, profitable, real, but it wasn't hers. Instead of retreating, I asked a question. "Does Marisa know about the trust funds?" The silence was immediate. Marisa frowned. "What trust funds?" For the first time that evening, my mother froze. Not long enough for anyone else to notice. Long enough for me. 3 days earlier, at a tech innovation expo, I overheard my mother speaking to investors. "The original concept was mine," she said easily. "A family initiative." She was talking about Spark Signal. The lie was so casual it almost felt rehearsed. That night, I couldn't sleep. I began checking records, quietly, methodically. My grandmother had left 2 equal trusts, one for each of us, meant to unlock when we turned 25. Seed money, choice. The numbers didn't align. Withdrawals I didn't authorize from my trust fund. Transfers routed through shell companies. Assets renamed, money gone. By midnight, the pattern was undeniable. My mother had siphoned my trust slowly, deliberately, over years, using it to fund Marisa's education, her lifestyle, her opportunities. Marisa had never known. When I sent her the evidence, she arrived at my apartment 30 minutes later, barefaced, shaking. "I thought she was helping me because she loved me," she said. "I know," I told her, and I meant it. Our childhood had been governed by rules that were never written. Affection was conditional. Silence was safer than honesty. Approval had to be earned repeatedly, or it expired. Marisa learned how to please. I learned how to disappear. When I taught myself to code, my mother called it antisocial. When I built Spark Signal, she called it reckless. "You don't think big enough," she used to say. What she meant was, "You don't think like me." We hired Catherine Shu, a forensic attorney who spoke corruption fluently. She specialized in untangling financial crimes and power abuses that hide behind respectability. "This isn't mismanagement," she said after reviewing the records. "It's theft, trustee fraud." Marisa whispered, "We don't want her destroyed." "We want restitution," I said. "And an admission," Catherine added. "Something recorded." Marisa looked at me. "She always drops her guard with you." I nodded. "She thinks she can still break me?" I apologized to my mother about the trust fund. She accepted immediately. We met at one of her favorite restaurants, quiet, insulated, consequence-free. I wore a silver pendant with a recorder inside. She drank. I didn't. When I asked about the trusts, her fingers went to her pearls. "I consolidated them," she said, "for safety." "And my money?" She sighed, irritated. "I earned it. I sacrificed everything for you children. That trust was compensation." There was no hesitation. When I asked if she loved me, she paused, calculating. "Love is overrated," she said. "Respect is more useful." That was the moment. Not the theft, not the lie, the certainty. Marisa and I decided that this had to stop. I had an anniversary summit for Spar Signal in a few weeks. That is when we will confront and execute justice. Spark Signal's anniversary summit filled a glass atrium with investors, journalists, and policymakers. My mother sat in the VIP section, radiant with entitlement. When I took the stage, the lights dimmed. Images played. My work, my failures, my progress. Then documents appeared. Transfers, shell companies, trust records, and then her voice, clear, cold, irrefutable. When the lights came up, federal agents were already approaching her table. She didn't scream. She didn't cry. She simply stared at me, as if finally recognizing what I had become. Not a puppet to be manipulated, but a person with clarity and moral grounding without sentimentality. The legal resolution was clean. Plea deal, restitution, prison. Spark Signal grew and expanded. Marisa joined the company. We founded a grant program. Journalists praised our resilience. People called it justice. I called it completion. But completion is not the same as peace. Success followed me everywhere. So did expectation. Investors leaned in. Journalists hinted. Everyone wanted the next exposure, the next reckoning. Truth had become currency. Daniel noticed before I did. Daniel Way was an engineer with a quiet demeanor and strong ethical compass. He and Elena were involved for over a year, but were not living together. He was stable and intelligent without ego. He listens more than he speaks and validates Elena without trying to fix her. "You don't talk about the future," he said once. "Only contingencies." When he left, I didn't stop him. I told myself it was efficiency, but the truth was he realized truth does not require cruelty. 10 years passed. Spark Signal became essential infrastructure. Cities depend on it. Systems optimized. Everything ran smoothly. I lived alone in a quiet apartment, overlooking a city that functioned beautifully because I had designed it that way. Marisa left the company and moved abroad. We spoke occasionally. My mother resurfaced once in an article about a financial consultancy overseas. She had adapted. The realization didn't make me angry. It made me tired. One night, standing on my balcony, watching traffic move exactly as predicted, I understood the final consequence. I hadn't destroyed her. I had replaced her. I had learned control so well that it no longer needed justification. Justice didn't save me. It perfected me. And perfection, I learned too late, is a lonely thing to inherit.